Jeffrey Dahmer's early life, a troubled beginning. Jeffrey Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was the first child of Joyce Annette and Lionel Herbert Dahmer. From an early age, Dahmer displayed signs of trouble. His parents' marriage was strained, marked by frequent fights and separations, which created a chaotic home environment. Dahmer was a shy, reserved child who struggled to make friends. He was often described as a loner. He developed a fascination with dead animals, collecting their carcasses and dissecting them. This macabre interest was an early indicator of the darkness that would later consume him. His father, a chemist, encouraged his interest in the biological sciences, unaware of the sinister direction it was taking. Dahmer's early experiences with animal dissection and his growing curiosity about the human body laid the groundwork for his future atrocities. These childhood experiences foreshadowed the gruesome acts he would commit as an adult. By high school, Dahmer's behavior became increasingly erratic. He began drinking heavily, further isolating himself from his peers. Despite his outward appearance of a troubled youth, no one could have predicted the monstrous path he would take. In 1978, Dahmer committed his first murder. He was 18 years old. His parents were divorcing and he was living alone in the family home. His victim was Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker whom Dahmer lured to his house with the promise of alcohol. Once inside, Dahmer and Hicks drank together. When Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer struck him with a dumbbell. Dahmer then strangled Hicks to death. This first murder set a disturbing precedent. Dahmer dismembered Hicks's body, dissolving parts in acid and scattering the remains in the woods behind his house. This initial act of violence was a pivotal moment in Dahmer's life. It marked the beginning of his journey into darkness. The murder of Stephen Hicks was not just a crime, it was the opening act of a horrific saga that would unfold over the next 13 years. Dahmer's ability to lure, kill, and dispose of his victim without detection emboldened him. He had tasted blood and found it intoxicating. The seeds of his serial killing spree were sown with this initial murder. After a period of dormancy, Dahmer's killing spree resumed in 1987. His victims were predominantly young men, often from marginalized communities. Dahmer had a method. He frequented bars and clubs, where he seduced his victims with charm and promises of money or alcohol. Once he had lured them to his apartment, Dahmer used a variety of methods to incapacitate and kill his victims. He often drugged them, making them easier to control. His killings followed a chilling pattern of dismemberment and disposal. By the time Dahmer was captured in 1991, he had murdered 17 men. Each murder was as brutal as the first, if not more so. The sheer number of victims and the gruesome nature of their deaths painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual. Dahmer's ability to evade capture for so long was a testament to his cunning and the weaknesses in law enforcement at the time. His reign of terror lasted for 13 years, leaving a trail of broken families and shattered lives in its wake. Dahmer's methods were as horrifying as his crimes. He often drugged his victims before killing them, ensuring they were unconscious and unable to resist. His preferred method of murder was strangulation, a slow and intimate way to take a life. Once his victims were dead, Dahmer dismembered their bodies. He kept parts of their remains as trophies, including skulls and bones. These grisly keepsakes were a way for Dahmer to relive his crimes. His apartment was a macabre museum of death. Dahmer also engaged in necrophilia and cannibalism. He confessed to eating parts of his victims, believing it would make them a part of him forever. This added a grotesque layer to his already heinous acts. Dahmer's perverse desires knew no bounds. The horrific nature of Dahmer's methods shocked the world. His actions were not just about killing, they were about domination and control. Dahmer took pleasure in the suffering of his victims, which made his crimes all the more terrifying. Section 5. The Konarak Synthosophone Incident, a Missed Opportunity. One of the most tragic moments in Dahmer's killing spree was the Konarak Synthosophone case. In May 1991, Dahmer lured the 14-year-old boy to his apartment. He drugged and sexually assaulted him. However, Synthosophone managed to escape. He was found wandering the streets by two women who called the police. When the police arrived, Dahmer convinced them that Synthosophone was his 19-year-old lover who had simply had too much to drink. The officers, believing Dahmer, returned the boy to his apartment. This tragic mistake allowed Dahmer to continue his killing spree. Once back in the apartment, Dahmer killed Synthosophone and dismembered his body. This incident highlighted the failings of the police and the prejudices that allowed Dahmer to continue his crimes. The Conorak synthesomphone case became a symbol of the missed opportunities to stop Dahmer. It was a haunting reminder of how close law enforcement came to saving many lives. The mishandling of this case remains one of the most damning aspects of Dahmer's story.